Hey folks, welcome to Marketing for Virtual versus In-Person Events. So I am Temrin. I am a freelance illustrator who's been drawing anthro critters since like 2001, animals and all that beforehand. Pretty much been drawing since I was old enough to hold a pencil, and I've been doing full-time art since around 2010. On top of the odd jobs and volunteering and staffing conventions like VancouFur, Howloween. I also run CozyCon Online, which is a virtual convention that started up at the beginning of lockdown in 2020. And I also run Canvas Swap Scene and Anthro Art Prompts. So for the past 3 years or so, a lot of us have had some interesting challenges trying to figure out how to do a lot of the things that we did in person at conventions, but virtually. So this panel is going to go through some of the key differences between vending or running a panel or being staff, what have you, but we are going to primarily focus on creators who vend or are in the dealer's den or whatever it's called at your event, artist alley, vendor hall, etc. But a lot of the stuff will be transferable to other things, like if you're running a panel, if you are a DJ, if you're participating in the convention in some official capacity. And there are tidbits here for staff as well. So before COVID, I ran a virtual event called HomeCon. From 2015 to 2018, it was hosted on a streaming service called Tiger Dial. The previous years were run by the co-owners, Caribou and Tanabe, who started it due to travel costs preventing their attendance to Midwest Fur Fest in 2012. I ended up taking over organizing some of the more internal aspects of it, including taking in and organizing panels, and making a schedule with links to everyone's stream pages for the various things that they were doing. During 2020, I took that idea and wanted to create something more with it. 2020 saw the beginning of, folks unsure what to do because we were in lockdown. We couldn't go to conventions. Conventions were running. And for a lot of vendors, an in-person presence is a big deal. It is a significant part of how many of us make our income. So, in lieu of that, I wanted to make a convention-like experience virtually with more aspects than I had done before. So having a vendor hall, having streamed events, having more centralized space to bring everyone together. During the pandemic years, I have organized CozyCon. I have helped out with virtual versions of conventions that usually run in person. I've done a few unofficial vendor get-togethers to try and help folks make their income during the pandemic while conventions were running, and a bunch of other stuff too. So I've had a lot of jam-packed experience in the last 3 years on kind of how to bring the in-person experience virtually, but also learning about the differences between running and participating in them. So, why should you care about the differences? Whether you're a vendor, convention staff, a panelist, or some other kind of participant, conventions run very differently depending on where they are, whether they're run in person or virtually, and especially when it comes to marketing and the mentality of those attending. While there's a lot of crossover between virtual and in-person events, there are some key differences that have an effect on your marketing strategy. For example, both types of events utilize the internet to post updates, but how the audience interacts with those posts is different. Virtual events started well before COVID, and they aren't going to be going away. And they can have a lot of opportunities if you fine-tune your strategies for marketing your involvement with them. So how can you make the most of the events that you participate in? So, some things to note In-person events, folks have taken time off of work and are present in the moment at the event. This is a big difference from virtual stuff. They've likely taken up money to spend at the event. They can see vendor wares in person, touch them, ask questions directly, and impulse buying happens a lot more in person because there's this instant gratification upon purchasing an item at a vendor table. It's yours right now. There is a fear of missing out, as it's generally known that vendor stock is limited. You can only carry so much on a plane, you can only travel with so much. So what a vendor has is what a vendor has. Customers pay no extra shipping costs. This is a huge one. They pretty much just have to fit it into their luggage, and there's no extra barrier to purchase there. If they have the money and they want it, they can get it. The physical aspect can get folks checking out areas they might not otherwise go to, thanks to friends or official events that might be happening in a room or near a room. So you might have folks deciding, hey, I'll go with my friends to the dealer's den, or I'll go with my friends to a particular panel that they might not have otherwise gone to without the encouragement of their friends. With virtual events, folks are generally at home. There are many distractions, and they might be less present than they would otherwise be at an in-person event. They can't see your wares in person, so there is definitely a disconnect there for some. Folks tend to struggle over online purchases more, as they have to wait for it, pay extra for shipping. It can put them over budget. I don't know about anyone else, but I have certainly tried to go purchase something online and have been like, the shipping is as much as the item. And I know that the artists have no control over this. I am an artist with an online shop. It sucks, like, in-person selling at an event has a lot of benefits, but it's not going to reach everyone either. So having kind of like a presence in online and in-person events is kind of like finding that happy balance. Your signage and photography can be really limiting at virtual events if they're not presented well or in a clear way. So think about accessibility, clarity, color values. Be prepared to work within the constraints of the platforms to make your virtual space look the best it can be wherever that is. This could be image and emoji display differences, formatting ability, adding QR codes to VR booths without, if they don't have a linking ability. Different events run on different platforms, and each of them will need different attention. Text communications have a way of being misread. They lack tone. Putting time and thought into your posts is really key, and trying to make sure that you are sounding friendly and approachable. So my biggest suggestion for folks trying to get into the virtual event scene in the most effective way is have at least a 2-week minimum marketing plan. This is something to plan and schedule before the event if possible. You can do something longer if you have the spoons to. Do so because social media algorithms will be working against you. I know I've talked about it a bunch online, and you see artists talking about it a lot. Social media has changed over the last handful of years, and not necessarily for the better for small businesses. It is constantly a challenge trying to figure out what's not going to get you hidden in the algorithm. So making sure that you've got a presence ahead of time can really help you out. So when you are accepted as a vendor or a panelist or a DJ or what have you, post about it. It can also be beneficial on platforms like Twitter and Mastodon to create a thread about the event where you'll post updates to it. This allows people to see not only the most recent thing that you've posted, but any of the previous posts as well, which can get more traction on other things that you've made updates about. Share your posts to groups on Facebook, Telegram, Discord, and especially the event spaces. Whatever space that event is running on, whether it's like Discord or they're doing like VR chat hype nights or anything like that, even like stuff in Minecraft, make appearances. Make sure that you have something, copy and pasteable, that has like some basic information about you, that has the brunt of the information, and then like spruce it up. Be like, hey, I will have a table, or I'm running a panel at this time, this day, or what have you, and just like personalize it when you post it, but have like that base information ready to go so that you don't forget something. Aim to post your offerings at least like 3 times a week for at least 2 weeks before the event. I know this can seem like a lot, and social media is like the bane of my existence. I eat, sleep, breathe it, and I wish I didn't have to. But unfortunately, it is kind of the way to get your information out there these days. So try and schedule this in advance. Make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to breathe, and just schedule stuff ahead of time so that you don't have to worry about that sort of stuff on the day-to-day. You can, if you're doing a thread, there are a little bit of extra hoops to kind of jump through to make that work. You may have to schedule each tweet individually after the previous one goes out to make threads work, depending on what apps you use. But it's generally worth it. So post about your schedule. Are you live streaming? Are you hosting any panels? Are you going to be in the virtual world? Do you have commission pre-orders or shop sales or discount codes? Make sure that you're saying all of this. Make it really obvious what you're offering. Make sure that you're putting pictures with all of these things. So if you have commission offerings, make sure that you're showing a commission sheet or examples of what you'll be offering. Folks, stop at visuals. If it's just a text post, oftentimes people will scroll past. You can sometimes get away with that by putting formatting emojis and stuff like that in with your posts, but images will make a bigger impact overall. And don't be afraid to reblog or retweet, retoot if you're on Mastodon or whatever. Share your posts again at a different time of the day. Only about 5% of your viewers will actually see it the first time around. And for platforms that aren't algorithm heavy like Mastodon, folks have everyday lives. They have jobs and other life stuff to tend to. So they might not actually see your posts if they watch a lot of people. So sharing it again will help them see it. And if you are running a convention, you're a staff or a volunteer, it really helps if you are actively posting about your participants. So if you're hosting something virtually, people don't have that in-person space to really show off their stuff in person, which gets a lot more eyes during the event. So trying to mitigate that, a lot of people can get lost in the shuffle of things. So Discord can have a lot of channels. It can be overwhelming for people. Make sure that if you are running a convention, that you are shining a spotlight on your vendors and your panelists and your DJs. They are giving the content to the people who are attending your event, so you should be making sure that people know about them. So here's kind of an example of the 2-week marketing plan. So at the very beginning, you were accepted to the event, your panel got accepted, or you're a vendor or what have you. Post about it. Start your thread. Just be like, hey, I'm going to be at this place. Maybe show a screenshot of the dealer's done layout if they've already got one out, or some kind of visual to get folks interested. I'll sometimes make a little branded post that's like, hey, I'm going to be here. Check out, my wares during these dates. And if I've got in-person and online stuff available, then I'll make that known also. So 2 weeks before the event, remind people, hey, this event is happening in a few weeks. If you're going, here's what I'm offering. If you are open for commissions ahead of time, make sure you post ahead of time. Making that as obvious and out there as possible will help more folks actually see it. But 2-week reminder, this is what I'm offering, come see me. And if it's a virtual event, maybe forward them to the registration page of the event. Maybe the next day you'll want to post about your schedule. So if you're planning on live streaming commissions or opening up for specific commissions, Or perhaps you are running a panel. Make sure that you are writing down your schedule in one easy place. People can actually see what it is that you're doing. They can become more prepared to spend those specific times at your things. Maybe you'll want to post about your commission openings. Do you have limited slots? How much? What's an example of the thing that you're offering? If you've got physical merchandise or shop links, post those. You'll want to make sure folks know where to find your work and where to buy from you. If you have a preferred shop front, share that. If you've got different shop fronts, share them all. The one thing about this, starting a thread in Twitter, is making sure that, like, right now the algorithm stands that your first post not having, like, hashtags or links or anything in it helps a lot. But then in any of the comments to that thread, you can post links and it will not impact that first post as much, generally speaking. It's complicated. But, like, post your links, post hashtags, make sure that you're trying to at the convention. Make sure that all of the information is there in an easiest possible way for folks to see. Maybe you want to do a shop item feature. You've got something new coming for that event. Share it in its own post. Show it off. Maybe a picture or a video. Show off the physical item if it's physical. Maybe feature a commission type. Maybe you've got something themed you want to do for this particular event. Showing that off is great. 1 week reminder, try and get people hype for the event and what you're offering. And do kind of all of that stuff all over again. Now, at the end of this, I do have, like, event dates here at the bottom. I would pre-schedule some stuff to go out during those times, because you're probably going to be spending a bunch of time in virtual worlds or on, like, Discord or something like that. And having a little bit of something to remind people about, like, something you're running or your wares will be good for those dates. And then you can update as needed, like, I finished a commission. Here's what it looks like. Here's who it's for. Here's how to get your own. And you just update as needed. So here are some in-person booth examples. When I first made the document that was kind of the basis for this panel, I got permission from folks in some of my artist chats. So on the left, we have Moss Fox, who has a lovely table set up with a very clear banner. You can very clearly see their name down at the bottom, and they have, like, a really cool light-up sign also, which is definitely an attention grabber. The tablecloth is also stellar. In the middle, we have Inkpause. Inkpause does a variety of different artworks and creations. You can see plush and all that sort of stuff in there. And they've got a colorful banner and lights. And then on the right, you've got Sean the Girl. Very nice setup with a very clear banner at the top and lots of cool items that you can see from a distance. That's kind of the big thing with in-person stuff, is you want to make sure that folks can see you from a distance and know who you are. This panel first happened at VancouFur 2023, and to be entirely fair, my table was not labeled as clearly as I would have liked. I was the community spotlight, and I found that throughout the weekend, a lot of folks were like, "Oh, this is you," and I was like, "Yes, this is me. Why are people having a hard time finding my table?" It's because I use two names for a lot of my work. A lot of folks know my character as Temrin, but my business is Wild Element Studios. So my banner says Wild Element Studios in bigger letters, and then, like, Temrin is not quite as seen, and it's down below. So, like, having something like Sean's table here with the banner up high can make a big difference for people to be able to find you, because you will be looking over people's heads as you are walking around the dealer's den. So, like, I'm probably going to have to figure out some kind of a different way to make it more known that, sure, this is my business name, but if you know me as Temrin, this is how you find me. So, like, don't be afraid to switch things up. Try something new. You know, there are tons of different things that you can do to your tables to make them look cool and approachable. Ask other artists. There are tons of artist groups out there that are willing to share their insights on things. So don't be afraid to like reach out and try to find those groups. Okay, so virtual stuff is going to vary a bit more greatly. While in-person stuff, you might have to worry about table size and table location. Generally, you have a table, and that is your surface. That is what you work with. When it comes to virtual examples, there are a lot of different ways to go about this. So on the left side, you can see this is part of my website. It is my events page where I show off what events I'm attending for this year, or what my schedule is for the next event. And then underneath it, there will be a picture of like a digital table, like the picture in the middle, and then like a list of items and stuff that are featured that I'm selling, as well as commissions and stuff as well. I generally live stream during virtual conventions, and they are like commissions are done live. So that's like a big feature that I try to put out. In the middle, there is a digital version of a table setup. I actually made the base for this. This is Shesta, criticove.ca. And their events page is similar to mine with like a list of events, but they have like this very cool digital setup. They've like made it look similar to like their brand, their general like color scheme, and they've used a picture of themselves behind the table. You can actually get this off my Gumroad, and there is another version that's come out, not by me, but you can get a 3-dimensional version through Clip Studio Paint now, which is pretty cool. But this is a Photoshop file that has movable parts, and you can move things around to your heart's content. So this can be like a really good, cheap way to kind of show off your products in a more traditional way. And then on the right, you can see one of my VancouFur vendor booths. This one was from 2022, I believe. It was 21 or 22. Anyways, this is the layout that they had for their virtual worlds. So you work within the template that they give you. So all of the VR booths tend to look different, depending on the theme and the world and the convention itself. So this is what they had that one year. So working with the space I was given, you can see that I've got some items on top of the little table there, and then some different information on each of the walls, as well as a clear sign at the top, and a little bit of extra information on the side. What things you can put on them will vary from event to event. Some events have, they'll allow you to run a video on one of the walls instead of an image. So you could do like a slideshow, or if you are someone who offers like 3D works or like physical or digital 3D works, you can show your merch kind of like in a video all the way around. You can do little spots like that that will really help folks understand what products you have in not just a static image way. They'll actually be able to see photos of the actual physical thing. Okay, so the thing that we talked about a little bit earlier about the Twitter threads, here's a couple of examples. So on the left, you can see Royal Wares on Twitter. They give some basic information about the event they're attending, which is Furality, and they have a Dealer's Den booth. They're open for commissions, and they have a bunch of merch available in their store. And there's also a deal. If you spend $25 or more, you automatically receive free shipping worldwide, which is cool. They have pictures of their booth and some of the wares that they have, as well as links to where to get them. So this is a very good way to get your merch across. They are including the event's handle, so the event will see it. So if the event is inclined to share posts from their vendors, then that will make it easier for them to see it and be able to share it. Any event worth their stuff, in my opinion, will be sharing their participants' content, provided it, follows their rules and everything. On the right, you can see an example of one of my threads. This was also for furality, and I listed a hashtag for commissions being open, which is often used. I mentioned, I will be in VR chat sometimes, and then that there's links in the rest of the thread. So I've got some images featuring what commissions I have and what items I will have available, physical and digital. And then in the follow-up comment, there's information on where to get everything. My threads end up being really long. I make updates in the thread, so if I've got a finished commission or I want to offer something specific, I will update in that thread so that folks will be able to still refer to the original post for all of the basic information. So another thing to consider and be mindful of is that whatever platforms you are posting on, how they look will be different. So desktop versus mobile, just on Discord, looks vastly different. Now, this is a little bit old. These are from 2021. Discord has changed their layout a little bit since then. So make sure that you are viewing things on different devices. Now, if you don't have multiple devices to look from, that's okay. There are websites for this that will actually allow you to preview things differently. And I believe if you view desktop on a browser and then just make the screen smaller, it should automatically switch to a mobile view. But you can test these, and there are plenty of websites out there that will allow you to test this. So, when crafting your platform posts, be aware of the differences. So, when people view stuff on different devices with different operating systems, you will find emojis will look different. So on the left, you can see an example that the little megaphone people like to put in their posts to signify that there's something important happening, looks very different on different devices. So some of them face in one direction, some of them face in other directions, some of them are a little bit more obviously a megaphone, and some of them aren't. So being a little bit mindful of that, because sometimes certain emojis don't make any sense on certain platforms, maybe trying to find one that seems to be more universally used is helpful. But you can see in the desktop version, in the middle portion here, everything is spread out. The images don't seem to scale. They scale a little bit better now on Discord, but when I took this screenshot, they didn't scale at all. They are tiny and hard to see, and all of your text is spread out over a much wider plane than the images are. So it can make things look a little weird. So trying to make things as concise as possible to fit in with how big the images are might make it easier to read, splitting up sections so people can have kind of that respite between sections, so they're not fighting to figure out when something new is being said. And you notice on the right side on the mobile, the images scale mostly to the full screen, and then you notice that the lines between my sections are too long, so they now split into two lines. So trying to figure out a way of splitting things up that looks better for both ways can be really important to making sure that folks can easily read your content. And making sure that image text isn't the only way you're displaying stuff. Make sure that you have a full text version that can be read by a screen reader or what have you available, because not all fonts are going to be easily readable in terms of what you might put on an advertisement image. So if you are relying on images to put all of your text, there's going to be a large portion of folks that are not going to be able to read it properly. So for those panelists and DJs out there, here are some good examples of ways to promote your involvement. So on the left, you can see VancouFur 2023's guest of honor, Ronnie. Ronnie put out a whole video on how he was participating at the event, what his schedule was going to be, even reminded folks of the 6-2-1 rule. It was very informative and very fun to watch, which made it really engaging. And he also put the convention's handle in the tweet, as well as some of the hashtags as well, which is really helpful. On the right, you can see Rekka's DJ poster, and listing multiple events that he's going to be at, what days, what time, and, artwork, having a visual catches people's attention more than just text. So this is generally important. So here's an example for any staff of a convention wondering how they can spread the word about their participants. So on the left, you can see VancouFur. This was their dealers page. At the very top, it had like the map and everything, and then below had a list of everyone's icons, their table number, their business name, and links to their websites or stores. This was super helpful. It gives everybody the opportunity to show off their brand or things that might be more recognizable for them, for their audience, as well as giving links out for people to be able to find their work and find their stores ahead of time and to find them after the fact. I don't know how many times I've gone to a dealer's den and I have found myself wishing I had picked up a business card or something from a particular person. And a lot of the times you can find them on the site listings based off of their icon, which is like really helpful. It brings people to those artists after the fact and before the fact. On the right, you can see RamCon, which is sadly no longer running, but they would put out posts like this and feature one of their artists every day or so. And they would write up a little snippet about what the person offers and, when to find people and all of that sort of jazz. Like, it was so good and very well done. I think there are a couple of conventions that will actually write themed stuff in their tweets. So it'll be in theme. Like, I think Furnal Equinox right now is happening this weekend, and a lot of their tweets about things are themed to their theme, which is Tales in the Tavern, or Tales from the Tavern. So very like D&D tabletop game, which is really fun. So on top of all of that, here is some further marketing advice. So as we mentioned before, you want to include your visuals. If you have product photos, this will generally be more attractive to a majority of viewers on the internet than only posting text. Make templates. This will save you so much time and allow you to schedule your posts ahead of the event, and it won't be like you don't have to put things together from scratch every time. Make a template. This saves me tons of time. I cannot stress this enough. Make sure that your titles are large text, and they can be fancy. Pick a fancy font if you really want to, and they're generally still legible if it's a large size. But be sure to use simpler, clearer font for your body copy, your subtitles, etc. Folks will generally click or scroll away from your posts if they can't read it easily. So if your logo is a personal script and maybe it's like graffiti-esque or anything like that, if you're not ensuring that people who aren't familiar with that style of writing can actually read it, then folks are going to probably scroll away because they're not going to be able to understand what you're posting. Having something stylized is great, but make sure that you've got a couple of friends who can review it and let you know whether or not it's a challenge to read. Keep your colors, your icons, and your banners cohesive between your business accounts, your website, your advertisements, etc. This allows folks to recognize that they are in the right place and is much less confusing. So if, let's say, I had a picture of this avatar as an icon on my Twitter account, if I had a completely different styled icon or a different character or maybe my logo or something like that on my shops page, people might get confused when they go from my Twitter and link to something through one of my tweets. Having the same business icon across all platforms is actually really helpful. Having a banner that's got similar branding will make sure that folks aren't getting confused, or they might think that, you've accidentally posted the wrong link in your tweet. Make sure that you are easily recognizable across all of your platforms. Same business name, same icon, same brand colors, whatever it is that you do for your stuff, make sure that you are recognizable. Check your color values. Those who are hard of seeing, colorblind, etc. may have a hard time reading your ads if there isn't clear contrast in the image. A quick trick is to desaturate your image to check. You would be amazed what colors look vastly different, and then if you saturate it and just look at the values of those colors, they're almost indistinguishable. So folks who might be hard of seeing in any way may not be able to tell the difference between a background color and the color you've chosen for a font. That font might become almost invisible to them, so make sure that you are checking those things. Include the event hashtag or their handle so that anyone looking for the event will see your posts, and those folks running those events might see your posts and be able to share them with more ease. Searching through hashtags can be fine, but I've run social media for conventions plenty of times in the past and currently do so for CozyCon, and looking through a hashtag is a lot harder than figuring out, hey, this person has pinged the account. Social media can be glitchy at best sometimes, and things don't show up. So adding both in there gives you a bigger chance of getting seen. And don't feel obligated to put things on sale. But if you do, make sure the details are in your posts and that it's clear. Post to social media, chats, website groups, gallery sites, etc. There's cross-posters like Postyburb, Agorapulse, Buffer, or Later. They can make the process a lot simpler. I used to use Hootsuite, but they're getting rid of their free account now, so sometimes you have to move around. But if you're looking for like furry-based places to post, Postyburb is really great. They have a large selection of places you can post to, and you can make templates for yourself, which is beyond helpful. And even more, if you like data, it might be worth setting up custom campaign URL analytics on your posts. So Google has analytics. You can make specific links that will, show you where people are coming from. If some people are seeing your posts more on Twitter, or if they're seeing your posts more for affinity or what have you, you'll actually be able to know where your audience is coming from, which can be really helpful to tailor things in the future. Boost the event and the other vendors too. I know some people are like, oh, but they're competition. Won't that overshadow my sales? In all likelihood, no, it won't. By boosting the event and sharing posts from other artists, you are helping the hype. You are boosting the entire event, and in the end, you'll probably get more people to the vendor hall. So that's more people in there for everyone. Engage with the virtual spaces ahead of time. So wherever your convention that you're participating in is hosting their stuff, whether that's Discord or what have you, make sure you're posting there. This gets your name and your icon and your works in front of the people who are interested in the event before it starts. Many events will allow artwork sharing, and you can do that all year round for a lot of them. It's a great opportunity to network, find new people, relate to folks in the chat, build community in that community, and familiarize yourself with the event spaces and talk to your audience about where they can find you in that space. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever gone into a Discord server and found that they've got about 1 million channels in there. Finding a specific artist's channel in the Dealer's Den section can be such a pain. So make sure that you are very clear with your audience where they can find you. Whether that be in a Twitter thread, or they can find updates in the Discord. Whatever you decide to do, make sure that you're telling people. And then some vendors, panelists, or DJs will make a video of their setup or their wares, or do like a teaser demo of their tunes they're planning to play. or a snippet of a panel like I'm doing here. You want to get folks hyped and showcase some of the content before the event. People might not understand, when I say marketing for virtual versus in-person events, that might not be super clear to people who don't have the experience in doing virtual events, what the difference would be and how this panel might be of value to them. Put a teaser out. Make sure that, you're showing your wares and what you might be doing and that you're excited to participate in the event, because that gets people excited with you. Now, I wanted to add a little bit more to this panel because I've been getting big into this, is web accessibility. Your images, your websites, stuff in VR, how do you make it more accessible? Now, this is not going to be a complete overview. I'm still learning, and, we all have limited amount of spoons and time available as, like, solo business artists. Trying to get all this stuff done can be a challenge, but pick a few things and you will make someone's life a lot easier. So, accessibility is an important aspect of both in-person and virtual events. Can people clearly read your signage from a distance? Websites and social media can be screen reader enabled, so make sure that you're posting alt text. And it doesn't have to be a novel. There are some great posts out there that explain, what's really good to include in alt text. And if you're on a place like Mastodon, there's a hashtag alt for me that will actually notify people who are willing to help out, make alt text for you in your comments, and that can be really helpful. Text transcripts and captions for audio and video content will increase your reach. Not everybody can listen to audio fully. I know there's plenty of times I've watched YouTube videos or like Instagram Reels or what have you, and I've not been able to really turn the audio on. It's just not an option where I am. And having captions on the screen allows me to enjoy the content in the place that I am without having to turn audio on. This also means that folks can find stuff in your presentation or your video or what have you easier because you can actually search in the transcripts, and they're usually timestamped, at least for stuff like YouTube. Ensure that there is enough contrast between your sections and your colors. We went over this briefly before, but check it. Desaturate your images and check your values. People will be able to see your stuff clearer if you do this. VR is not accessible to everyone, and it can be extremely expensive. Having non-VR options is essential. So, I am using my partner's VR headset because VR headsets are extremely out of my budget, but VR chat also has desktop mode, and most other VR platforms also have a desktop mode. This makes it more accessible for a lot of other people, but you also need to make that clear. So if you're running an event and you have something in VR, you need to make sure that you are stating you don't have to have VR to participate, because a lot of folks don't know that you don't have to have a headset to participate. One other thing that I've noticed happen a little bit more lately is websites that are keyboard navigation accessible. You don't have to use a mouse. You can go from page to page using your keys. You can type stuff in and enter stuff with the enter key. It's a lot easier to navigate for folks who might be unable to use a mouse. They might be stuck with a trackpad. They might have screen reader applications that tell them what the buttons say, which is easier to get around if you're using keys that automatically go from one thing to another than trying to figure out exactly where something is with a mouse. Ensure folks have enough time to read and use the content on a website before it times out. So this is big for convention staff. I don't know how many times that I have gone to apply for a dealer's table or a VR booth or something, and the website has timed out before I have filled everything out. And I'm a decently quick typer. So now I write everything out in base form so I can copy and paste it and fill in a few things extra if there's a prompt to do so. I use that now because a lot of the time, stuff will time out after 20 minutes, and that's just not conducive to a lot of people. A lot of folks don't type as fast. They might have things that prevent them from typing fast. You need to make sure people can enjoy your event and participate without those kinds of things being a barrier. Avoid flashing GIFs, and if there is something with flashing colors or, lighting changes really quickly in a video, make sure that your users are aware that that is going to be presented. Put a screen in a video that says, warning, flashing colors, anything like that. You can put a sign at the beginning of a VR world that says, hey, flashing colors, here's some settings to be able to turn that off if that's something that's going to trigger a seizure or be uncomfortable on your eyes, anything like that. Make sure that people know. You do not want to have people having seizures while enjoying your content. That's just not, don't do it. Make that happen. Not everybody's computer is a powerhouse either, so having all of those extra effects can really degrade performance if you're in an event world that's already got like 30 people in it. If you have any questions or anything about what I have shared with you today, please feel free to put them in the comments down below. I will do my best to answer what I can, and maybe update this panel at a future time with some of the stuff folks have asked. I did run this panel at VancouFur 2023, and I unfortunately did not manage to keep the notes of what folks asked, so I apologize if I had anything that I have missed. Please ask me in the comments or shoot me an email over on my website, and I will try to answer as best that I can. So if you're looking for more, this started as a document that I created with a few other artists after experiencing virtual events early on in the pandemic. We wanted to try and help folks make better sales at virtual events because we saw a lot of folks complaining and having a hard time figuring out why they weren't making, expected sales between what they were used to at an in-person event. So if you want to check out the full document with more details, there's a QR code here, there is a bit.ly link in the panel, and I will also make sure all of the links are in the description below. I hope that helped. Please let me know. I'd love to hear more from you folks on this sort of stuff, and if there's anything that I can share in the future that might be helpful. And if you haven't already, you should check out Furnal Equinox. They are a in-person event in Toronto that CozyCon Online that I run is partnered with. We both have events during the year and help each other out, so you should check them out. Thanks for watching.